What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Good day or evening to everyone out there in the decoding world. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality. And today, I'm going to be breaking down and decoding Pink Floyd's The Dark Side of the Moon. The 1973, one of the greatest albums, greatest selling albums of all time. It is The Dark Side of the Moon. And folks, I've been working on this decode for days. And the information that I'm about to show you is not just decoding the band and the songs and all that, but we're going to be getting into what I feel is running this matrix reality. And perhaps even how the creation of mankind works. Now, this is my third album that I've now decoded from Pink Floyd. I have Wish You Were Here, when I also have Welcome to the Machine. If you haven't seen those, please check them out. Folks, Pink Floyd were just speaking their truth. And I believe, as I always mention through my decodes lately, is that man is being used, and we're all playing out our part. And you're playing out your part, I'm playing out my part, these musicians are playing out their part, and these songs that they sing and the lyrics that they write are not their own. They're being used to write the lyrics, and then they have to strum the guitars and beat the drums and practice at those things, but the lyrics and what comes into their mind are not their own. And I'm going to show that to you folks, and I'm going to back it up with a lot of support, not just giving you my opinion right here and then just calling it a day. So here we go, folks. Without further ado, let's get into the topics of this presentation. In the zero position, the introduction, which is what I'm doing now, and I have one slide of the methods that I use. So if you're new to this, welcome. And it's just like putting a puzzle together, folks. We blend multiple layers together. My great friend Santos Bonacci calls it syncretism, which is kind of what I do. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a lot of syncretizing information. In the number one position, chasing the rabbit. Number two, we're going to go over the track list of The Dark Side of the Moon. Number three, Stranger. Number four, we're going to break down the band Pink Floyd. Number five, Dark Side of the Rainbow. Number six, Prism. Number seven, Eclipse. Number eight, Great Gig. And number nine, what did you see during this presentation? I always love to hear your comments. Even those of you that give me the thumbs down, keep them coming, baby, because that's just energy, and I appreciate all of it, no matter what you feel about me and my presentations. So keep it coming. So here we go, folks. The methods, the one page of methods that I'm going to show you, and this is how these layers connect. Notice that Pink Floyd, through the Chaldean numerology cipher. This is called numerology. If you're new to this, it's taking the spoken word, getting the letters, and then bringing it into numbers. And then we can measure that, because our world is built on mathematics, folks. And I'm going to show that today because I'm bringing in sacred geometry, and there's no denying that stuff. And Pink Floyd is directly linked to sacred geometry. So notice it's a 39 overall total. And that is linked to the second layer that I want to bring into this, which is the cards of illumination. A typical deck of cards you play poker and blackjack with, maybe go fish and gin rummy and spades and hearts. These cards are highly accurate when you decode from them, and they're also highly accurate in their descriptions of who we are. And you're going to have some of these cards tied to your birthday. And I hope by now you know what your two primary cards are. You're going to have more than that. And I can guarantee you, if you haven't really researched these, when you do, you're going to realize that they're about 90 or 95% accurate in their descriptions of who you are and why you're here. Now, how is that possible? You see, folks, there are 52 cards in a deck, and that's a direct match of the 52 weeks in a year. And in a deck of cards, there are 4 suits matching the 4 seasons that we call spring, summer, fall, and winter. And each suit has 13 cards, the ace through king, and that's a match of the 13 weeks that makes up each of the 4 seasons. So these are highly accurate, folks. The symbols, you know, the numbers, and we're going to get into this, folks. We're going to be using these quite a bit during this presentation. So this is the 39th card in the deck. And how I got that, let me digress and show you. Now, if you want these graphics, just send me an email and I'll send them to you. My email is decodeyourreality@gmail.com. And just request them and I'll send them to you. Just pay it forward. I don't want anything in return. Just if you find some amazing decodes or whatever, then share them with me. I'd love to hear what you found and what you've discovered. Amazing. There's just some amazing decoders out there. So nonetheless, here's the cards in their natural lineages. Hearts are first, which is the element fire. Clubs is second, which represents air. Diamonds is third, which represents water. And number 4 in the spade position is what represents earth. So fire, air, water, and earth. And it's ace all the way down to the king. And then it repeats. So the kings are right here at the very bottom and the aces are all the way at the top. And these are all in sequence, folks. And the 39th card in the deck is right here, matching that of the numerology of Pink Floyd, the number 39 card. Right there, the King Diamonds. And then we bring in a third layer to give us another bridge to tie into, excuse me, which is the elements of the periodic table. Now, I've been showing how accurate these are in describing our matrix reality because we're made up of these elements, folks. We're made up of a lot of these elements. And of course, they're in our reality, so we can use them to measure things from. And the 39th element I've been showing over and over and how big this one is. This is called yttrium. Notice the letter Y, and of course, the snake's tongue is in the shape of a letter Y when it comes out of its mouth. And it's got an atomic weight of 88.906. How many miles an hour did Marty McFly have to get that DeLorean in order to time travel? Yeah, it was 88 miles an hour. So the 88 and 39 are, of course, in bed together, and it's right there inside that box of yttrium, the 39. So 39 is tied to the King Diamonds card, which is tied to the band Pink Floyd in their name through numerology. And then we can bring in a fourth layer, which is called pi, which is the infinite numbers contained inside the measurement of a circle. There are an infinite amount of potential. And folks, we live in pi. I've been showing this over and over now that Earth is pi. We live inside pi, the infinite potential. We all have infinite potential. And we continue to create and co-create, and we use it through numbers. Everything can be measured in numbers. Mathematics rules our world. So pi is very accurate in the way it expresses itself, and we can find any number inside the string of pi. And the website that I use, just so you guys know, is right here. It's called Subidium.com, and you can type in any number you want, hit submit, and it'll find it. I think it's up to 2 million digits. It'll find whatever number you're looking for. So nonetheless, the number 39, which is tied to Pink Floyd, the King Diamonds, and this element yttrium, it appears at the 43rd and 44th. It's a compound number, meaning more than one. So the 3 marks the 43rd digit, and the 9 is the 44th digit. 39 is 43 and 44. And it's a link to these two nouns in numerology and geometry now. The octahedron, which is this shape right here, is the number 43, which is a direct match of where the 39 starts in the string of pi. But again, 39 is also utilizing or occupying the 44th digit, and that's where we get the word tetrahedron. So we have two geometrical shapes that are tied to the number 39. The octahedron, which is right here, it's two pyramids put together, and then the tetrahedron, which is just one. Now, on the album cover of Dark Side of the Moon, it's the tetrahedron. The tetrahedron. And folks, I want to ask you a question. This shape right here, which is the octahedron, what does this look like right there, folks? When you come over to this 39th card, the King, doesn't that kind of look like a diamond shape? It most certainly does. It's the diamond shape, folks. So clearly you can see that the band Pink Floyd, knowingly or unknowingly, whether they're using this or not, all these modalities that I'm using, this methodology, it's tied to this King Diamonds, which is tied to yttrium and time travel, and tied to Back to the Future. It's tied in pi, and it's tied to these two geometrical shapes, the tetrahedron and the octahedron. They're both in there. And it's tied to the band Pink Floyd. Now, folks, this right here, it was absolutely mind-blowing to me when I started just doing this. And I did this last to give you on how I do my methods. I did this slide absolutely last, and I got 51 more slides to go, or 50 more slides to go. This is gonna be a long presentation, so, put on some headphones, folks, get comfortable. I promise you, this one is going to blow your doors off. It will blow your doors off. But this is mind-blowing already right here. So the King Diamonds, and remember, the diamond suit is the emotional suit. It runs our emotions because water is what we're made up of primarily. And this card is also tied to the Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which is what the constellations are above our heads, the 88 constellations. 88 constellations, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Folks, there are no coincidences or accidents, and clearly you can see how this ties into other things that I just mentioned without even trying. So let's keep going, folks. That's the methods. Let's now get into the band. These are the four guys that are part of the Dark Side of the Moon. Now, sure, there were some other people that contributed to the album, but these are the guys that are mentioned on the Dark Side of the Moon. Now, when you go to that right here, Dark Side of the, that's right here. That's I don't even have it right here, but when you go to the Dark Side of the Moon, actually, let me go to it because I want to be able to show you guys Dark Side of the Moon. I want to be able to utilize it. Here it is. When you go through this album, there's a lot of gold nuggets in here. I mean, I could have given you guys hours and hours, and I may end up doing a part 2 because there's just so much information, folks. But, when you go down to the bottom here, and you'll see that here are the band members, which I'm about to go over right here. Here are the 4 band members of about what I'm about to go over right now. And there's some additional musicians in there. But these are the guys that were the main members of the band. And here they are, and their birthdays. And of course, I'm going to bring in the cards of illumination because I mean, I've already showed you how accurate it was just describing Pink Floyd. Let's get into the individual birthdays and the members of Pink Floyd. We have, of course, David Gilmour, born on March 6th. We have George Waters, and he was born on September 6th. And we have Nick Mason, born on the 27th of January. And then we have Rick Wright, born on the 28th of July. And we're going to get into these birthdays quite a bit. Now, I wanted to point out the 6th March birthday of Gilmour is the 4 spades. That's the 43rd card in the deck. Waters has the 5 diamonds. He has the pi card. This is the card of pi, 3.1. It's the 31st card. And of course, he's got the 96th birthday. September is 9/6. That's the yin yang. And this guy was the major writer of Dark Side of the Moon. Then you have Mason at the King Clubs position with January 27th, the 26th card. And then you have Richard Wright, with the King Hearts on the 28th of July, the 13th card. And when you add up all four of these cards, folks, you're going to get the number 113. Using that trusty calculator, it's the 113. Some of you already know what that's tied to our blood. It's tied to history and the crown. But folks, when you bring in the medicine cards, now these cards are very accurate as well. These are using animals and insects to show off its symbols and expressions. And there are 52 of these cards, which I use quite a bit as well. But folks, the 113, using numberempire.com, it's the 30th prime number. If you don't know what a prime number is, I'm going to suggest that you stop this decode and just go read it real quick. Just go Google it so you can get a sense of how important prime numbers are. But 113 is the 30th prime number. And that's tied to this card right here. Down the rabbit hole, we all go into pi. And didn't Pink Floyd sing in one of their songs about the rabbit? They sure did, folks, on this album, Dark Side of the Moon, Run Rabbit Run. And of course, Alice is 30, that ran in down the tree into the hole to follow the rabbit, the white rabbit. But of course, folks, and these guys, through their cards, are tied to the rabbit and pi going down that hole. So when you get into their full names now, and you decode them using numerology. And again, I favor the Chaldean because I think it's the most accurate and it's the closest to source that you're going to get. Not saying the other ones that you guys and gals are using have no merit, but I feel that the Chaldean is the closest to the origin of all things. And you'll notice that these four guys who are in the Dark Side of the Moon, the subtleties, it's 73 letters. This album came out in 1973. Well, when you do the total numerology of these four guys, it's a 251. And of course, I'm going to look at the prime on this. Folks, it's the 54th prime number. These guys land on a prime number. And if the 54, folks, is a huge number in our matrix reality. It's the mirror of the 45. Which is tied to pi itself, but it's tied to this element right here called xenon, the X. And xenon, of course, is the 131. There's that 113. It's just in a different format, but 131 could be the same as that 113. You see how that just can tie in together? And there's no accidents, folks, in all of this. So you can clearly see that these guys are highly embedded into the matrix and their story is super strong. And these guys were meant to come together to form this band and to create this album and then many other albums that they have and speak their truths. So then when you get into their birthdays, folks, if that didn't blow you away, this probably will. This should blow you away right here, folks. So these guys right here are their birthdays broken down just in the month and days. Wright was on July 28th. Waters is 9/6, September 6th. Mason is January 27th, and then Gilmore is on March 6th. Just the month and days. And when you add these up, 36, 127, 96, and 728, right here, using the trusty calculator, you get the number 987. And that's a freaking Fibonacci number, the 16th Fibonacci number. If you don't know what Fibonacci numbers are, folks, again, this is strong, strong math that these layers are showing, and you must understand how important Fibonacci and prime numbers are, and triangular numbers, which we're going to be getting into a lot because Pink Floyd was all about the tetrahedron and the octahedron. But folks, 987 with just their birthdays is the 16th Fibonacci number. The 16th Fibonacci number. And when you get into the 251 again, bringing it from their actual names in numerology, you come down here, and the 251st prime number is tied to this number right there, the 1597. And that is the 17th Fibonacci number. And the 17 and 16, when you bring these two together, folks, you're going to get the number 33. And just wait till I get to the end of this presentation, folks, because that 33 will slam you right in the face because it's tied to the great gig in the sky. And that's my last topic of this presentation right here, folks. But so obviously, folks, you know, the 251's the 17th Fibonacci number, and that's tied to their names in numerology, and it's also a prime number. And then their birthdays are the 16th Fibonacci number. They're in sequence right here, folks. 16 and 17, that is the number 33, folks. And there are no accidents in this world. These guys were supposed to come together and play the music. They're being used to play this music and to deliver it to the world because their albums have truth to it of how this matrix really works. And that's why I'm excited about this presentation, because I'm going to show you that truth. Now, what about the days? Just the days of their birthdays. The 28, the 6, the 27, and the 6. When you add them up using the trusty calculator, you're going to get the number 67. 67 is also a prime number. It's the 19th prime number, and that's linked to this word right here, the battery. Life is a battery, folks. We serve a battery. Not like a car does, but we are a battery. Your left and right arms, that's the anode and cathode, the positive and negative. If you haven't seen my decode on the Christ battery, I would highly suggest you check it out, folks, because there are so many truths in there, what I feel to be truths. The number 67, I showed, this is tied to COVID, by the way. If you haven't seen some of my decodes on COVID, and those, like I think Event 201 has this strongly tied into the people that are making the Event 201 up, Bill Gates and company. But the number 67 is tied to this element right here called holmium. Holmium, folks, is the most magnetic element on the entire periodic table. I'll say that again. Holmium is the most magnetic element on the entire periodic table. So if this is the most magnetic number and these guys' birthdays are combined together, what does that interpret to, folks? These guys are highly magnetic. Whatever they deliver to the world will be highly magnetic. You're going to be drawn to it, which is why The Dark Side of the Moon is one of the greatest selling albums of all time. They're one of the best selling bands of all time. And you're seeing it why through the esoteric and through science and numbers, folks, and through the digits, the code in our matrix reality. These guys were a battery. That's exactly what they formed, and they were highly magnetic. That's what the interpretation of this. And we're just getting started, folks. What about the first names? Just their first names. Richard, Roger, Nick, and David. Just their first names. That equals the number 64. That's linked to the GD element, and I hope you've been following this great research, folks. This is tied to the fish, the great fish. How many fish did Peter and Jesus catch in the story in the Bible when he threw the nets over on the right side of the boat when Jesus said, hey, throw them on the right side? Yeah, it was 153. Because see, folks, the number 64 is a massive number in our matrix reality because we have 64 possible codons in our DNA. There are 64 squares on a chessboard. There are 64 numbers in the ancient I Ching system, in the human design system. That's how big the 64 is, folks. And these guys, I know this is subtle because like, oh, okay, well, it's just their first names. But folks, look at what I just showed you, how magnetic, and they form a battery. And they got primes and Fibonacci numbers, and they lead to that number 33. Folks, these are no mistakes or accidents. And we're not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and I'm not stretching by any means on what I'm showing you because I got so much more to show you. When you go and do the numerology on their last names, just their last names, Wright, Mason, Waters, and Gilmore, you're going to get the number 88. 88, folks. The subtleties, 24 letters, that's tied to the X chromosomes. The letter X is the 24th letter in the English alphabet. That is affecting our chromosomes. Their music affects your chromosomes, your DNA. 88, of course, is a huge number because it's tied directly to the Back to the Future series that came out in 1985. The Dark Side of the Moon, the album itself, has a total numerology of the number 88. So if 88's linked to time travel and this album is 88, does that mean this album's all about time travel? No, but I can tell you this, folks. What kind of song was on this album? It was called Time. There was a song on this album called Time. And yet we have a movie about time travel and the DeLorean having to get to 88 miles an hour to time travel, folks. So clearly we're getting somewhere with this narrative. So their last names are 88. The album they come out with are 88. Do you think that these guys and the producers and the music industry are literally doing all these modalities and sitting down and having to figure out all these numbers to get it right? Do you know how crazy that sounds if you're trying to say that's exactly what goes on? Now, I'm not saying that some of these producers are not doing things on certain dates, because I'm going to show you some of these release dates and tour dates that, yes, of course, man could be choosing these dates, folks. But when you get into the layers behind that, you can clearly see that we're being used. Clearly, folks. Clearly. Now, here's one of them, folks. Here's the track list off the Dark Side of the Moon. And we have the total length of each of these is 19 minutes and 27 seconds for side number 1 and 23 minutes and 42 seconds for side number 2. 19 plus 27 is the number 46. 23 plus 42 is the number 65. When you add those two up in the trusty calculator, look at the number that we get. The number 111, which of course is tied to 1.21 gigawatts. If you go to Numerology and you type in 1.21 gigawatts, you're going to see the outcome in the English ordinal at 111. A bolt of lightning and magnetism and electricity. They all go hand in hand, folks. All of them. Now, what I didn't point out was, the subtleties, but there are typically on an album, there are two sides, side 1 and side 2. If you put those two numbers together, what does that bring you? It gives you a 12. What's the mirror of 12? 21. If you reduce those down, what number do you get? The number 33. So you can see the subtleties that we probably never look at. I mean, even the records. What size was a record when it first came out? 33. 33 and 45. 45 is tied to pi and dark black hole sun, which I've shown. It's going to be coming out in my Prism planet. Decode, folks. The 45, it's huge. But records with 33. The vinyl was 33. Did we even ever pay attention to any of that? 33, folks. Here are the titles of the songs broken down through numerology. Speak to Me, Breathe in the Air, On the Run, Time, The Great Gig in the Sky, Money, Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, and Eclipse. The 10 songs on the album. Of course, the subtleties again. You have 5 songs on the first side, 5 songs on the second side. 5 and 5 is 55. 55 is the 10th Fibonacci number, and we're going to be utilizing that 10, folks. The 10 is the yod, and the yod has so much to do with this presentation. So here we go, folks. The songs broken down. So the subtleties, 102 letters. The 45th element is got an atomic weight of 102, and that 45 is tied to pi. We're going to be getting into that during the Prism planet. But folks, look at this. 373 is the 74th prime number. It's the 74th prime number, folks. And at the very end of this presentation, I'm going to show you how massive this 74 is and why it's tied to the all-seeing eye. And, of course, the pyramid and the octahedron and the tetrahedron and this album, The Dark Side of the Moon, which has a pyramid on it. What about the English? You don't like the Chaldean? Okay, let's look at the English. Look at the outcome for the English, folks. It's a master number 11 and a master number 66 tied together. Now, I'm not going to break all this stuff down and get too advanced. That's something for you to discover. You should know numerology now, folks. You should know what these numbers are linking to. This is a big freaking deal right here. This is a big deal. I know you want me to just hand deliver it to you. But see, that's where I kind of challenge people, because it's like you got to get away from just connecting the dots with numerology and thinking you got it all figured out. And that may piss some of you off. That may piss a lot of people off because they're just basically decoding words and tying them together. That's not the way this works, folks. What about the prime numbers? What about the actual cipher in numerology that's linked to the prime numbers? Well, it's a 3673, all of the songs on the album using the prime cipher, and that's a prime number. 3673 is the 513th prime number. Folks, what are those numbers that I showed? 513 is tied to what? The fish, 153. Let me just digress right there. There it is. See the 351 or the 531? It's right there, 153. Doesn't matter which way you kind of jumble the numbers up. The fact is the numbers are expressing themselves, and in the code, they're tied together. They're tied together, folks. So there you go, 513, 315, 153. It's all tied to the fish. Jesus was a fisher of men, catching people's DNA through the gold currency. And we're going to be getting into that, folks. That's what this whole album's about. So how about in the string of pi, folks? How about in the string of pi? 3673 starts at the 504th decimal digit of pi. That zero means infinite potential. You get rid of that zero and you get, once again, that element xenon, which is the 113, the 131 tied to the band members and going down the rabbit hole, folks, that 54 in our X chromosomes in xenon. Now, we get into xenon because it means stranger, folks. So this is the other title to one of the categories that I'm going to be talking about, and that is stranger. And when I found this one, folks, I was completely blown away. I'll be telling you, I was completely blown away. Because see, folks, I've been saying to all of you, and some of you, completely can see what I'm saying. Some of you are really resisting it. And again, I'm not here to try to change your mind. I'm not here to say my way's the only way and I'm right and you're wrong. Okay? I believe I'm right in all my opinions and truths. That's why I list it in the very beginning of my videos. But clearly I'm supporting what I'm saying to you and showing you from other layers in our world that have nothing. I don't know any of these guys from Pink Floyd. I didn't write any of their lyrics. But I've been saying over and over that we are being used. That voice in your head, are you in control of it? Or is it in control of you? There's really no way to prove either side. Which way you side with, there's no way to prove it. Just comes down to an opinion. So that's why I like, showing you numerology, and now we're breaking down this album, one of the greatest selling albums of all time. This song called Brain Damage. This was part of the lyrics. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And it's a 131, folks, which is tied to this element xenon. And this xenon right here is derived from the Greek word xenos, and it means stranger. It means stranger. And this is what they used, the Royal Society of Chemistry. This is what they used for their little symbol for this element, the flash of lightning. And of course, it's green. Someone in my head, but it's not me. This is huge right here. The subtleties. This is tied to the am, the I am, the am. If you locate the number 95 in the string of pi, you're going to tie it to this number 32. The I am, that's what this is tied to. The xenon, the am part. That's us. That's us being used in our mind. From the stranger that plants things in our mind. Someone in my head, but it's not me. Yeah, Pink Floyd was telling you the truth, folks. So what about the string of pi? What has that got to say with anything? Well, folks, you see the 131, it appears at the starting point of the 1096th decimal digit of pi. And what's 196? That would be the element gold, folks. And I've been saying this, showing it and supporting it, that man is being used for our gold currency, the energy we give off. And our mind, our brains, our supercomputer, our brains is a big part of that. And I'm going to be showing that at the very end, folks. Wait till I show you the end. The end is the best part of this presentation. The end is the best part of this entire presentation. So, what about the 54? Since it's tied to the band and there's someone in my head, but it's not me. Well, folks, then the 54, when you look at that in the string of pi, look where it's located at. The 191st decimal digit of pi. Yeah, it's 191, 192. Some of you that say, oh, well, it should be 192. Yeah, well, osmium also has an atomic weight of 192. So it encapsulates both of those numbers, folks. But that 191, of course, is tied to the battery. Battery's 19. Well, folks, this is the Wizard of Oz element. Osmium. I've been showing how big. If you haven't seen my decode on Random Thoughts number 6, somebody was just asking me this. Have you decoded the Wizard of Oz? Well, yeah, I kind of did in my Random Thought. Random Thoughts is when I take all these different topics and tie them together. In my Random Thoughts number 6, I believe, I included the Wizard of Oz in there. So check it out, folks. I'm going to have a decode specifically just on the Wizard of Oz because it's tied right into this dark side of the moon. But there it is. Osmium, the Wizard of Oz. What a great rendition of this right here. The Wizard of Oz. Xenon, the stranger, the voice in your head. And, that brings us into, once again, the Pink Floyd and the 39. And now I want to do the Alchemology to show you what that's tied to, besides the King Diamonds and the Tetrahedron and the Octahedron. And I said we're being mined for gold, folks. Pink Floyd. Now, what's Alchemology? Alchemology is taking numerology right here, getting our numbers outputs, and then bringing it into the elements of the periodic table. So just like the word pink is 8152, and that matches up with these elements right here. Oxygen's number 8, hydrogen's number 1, boron's number 5, and helium is number 2. 8152, and then Floyd is right here. And then we want to add these up. All these little numbers right here are the atomic masses or weights of these elements that are measured in the laboratory. These are the most abundant weights, by the way, because a lot of these elements have more than one. So we go over to the trusty calculator and look at what number we get, folks. On the masculine side of the decimal, it's the number 79. And what is 79? It's the element gold. Follow the yellow brick road. What color is gold? Yellow. It's got a yellowish tint to it. Gold, folks. The yellow brick road is gold, and you're told to follow it. Keep in mind, this movie, Wizard of Oz, what year did it come out? 1939. And I show, what's Pink Floyd? 39. 19 just means battery. The entire 1900 century is a battery. And the numbers that follow it, those are what you can kind of measure things from. But look at that. Wizard of Oz came out in 39 and Pink Floyd is 39. No coincidence there, which is why, well, I'm going to get to that in a minute, folks. But look at this. Pink Floyd in the English is the number 112. And when you bring in the string of pi, folks, look at what number you get. It appears at the 709th decimal digit of pi, and you just drop that 0 and you once again get that element gold, folks. You just don't have to do the alchemology of it, but clearly you can see the tie-ins of both the Chaldean and the alchemology and the elements, and then the simplicity of just using numerology through the English and bringing it into the string of pi. And you find the same results. So that clearly should tell each and every one of you how strong this story is, folks. How strong this band is and why they're one of the greatest bands of all time, folks. Because of these synchronicities that I'm showing you, which are, of course, in the code called life. The game of life, it has a code to it, and you're seeing the code. And this code was written long before these guys were ever born. They're just playing out their parts because everything's fixed and rigged, like I've been saying. And when you go into the string of, when you go into the prime numbers and you measure Pink Floyd, look at what number we get. There's that 351. I showed you the 513, the 153 tied to the fish, tied to the guys' names in the band. It's the GD element again, folks. And of course, we know, I've been showing this. I showed it in the Truman Show, and we're the goldfish. We're fish, folks. We're living in the sea of space. We don't breathe we don't breathe in water, but we breathe oxygen and nitrogen. And we're fish, and we live in the sea of space, and we're being mined for our gold, folks. That's why we're told to follow the yellow brick road. Because we are lead and we get turned into gold, and our energy is what's being used as food. And this is not a new topic. The Greeks talked about this. It was called ambrosia, folks. So then when you look at this another way, you look at the 112 from the English, and it's tied to this element right here, the 48th element called cadmium. And this is the actual icon that the Royal Society of Chemistry decided to use for the representation of cadmium. And of course, it's the pyramid pointing down, which when you connect it to this one in the sky, it forms an octahedron. And of course, this means Earth. This one means Earth. So you can see the interpretation there, folks, when you tie it all together. Now, there was a phenomenon that came out called dark side of the rainbow. They called it the dark side of Oz, or the Wizard of Floyd. And I watched it, and I was completely, I was mesmerized. And what they say is you can take the entire album of Dark Side of the Moon and put it over the Wizard of Oz and play them simultaneously, and it was supposed to happen. You know, I mean, this guy right here, Savage, this is the guy who actually published it from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. And he said the results are astonishing. It's as if the movie were one long art film music video for the album. So, of course, they caught some attention, and then they asked the members of Pink Floyd, and of course, they denied any connection between the album and the film. But of course they are, because, you know, they say it's absolute nonsense. And of course they do, because did they create that with Wizard of Oz in mind? Maybe, some of it. But folks, clearly you can see. Clearly that you can see. 1939, The Wizard of Oz comes out. Pink Floyd's 39. And I'm going to show you that it is undeniable that Pink Floyd and The Wizard of Oz are completely tied together. And they may not have consciously created Dark Side of the Moon with anything in mind with The Wizard of Oz, but unconsciously, they absolutely did. So here we go, Dark Side of the Rainbow. So, I mean, Dark Side of the Rainbow is the number 75. And, you know, remember, 75 is a very special number. It's tied to the element rhenium, which has the highest melting point out of any of the elements on the periodic table. Or from a solid to a gas. 75 is tied to the constellations over our head. It's also tied to the Masonic Arch. The Masonic Arch, which includes Boaz and Yachin, have the 7 constellations and then the 5 constellations. 7 make up the arch, and then the other 5 make up the ones underneath it. 75. And when you bring in the string of pi, folks, the number 75 appears at the 47th decimal digit of pi. 47 and 48. 47 and 48. And this 75 is tied to the I am that I am. It's tied to the am, and I'm going to get into that, folks. So this phenomenon, the dark side of the rainbow, is also called the dark side of Oz. So right here, see the dark side of Oz? And you notice it's a number 51. And 51, folks, is tied to this element right here called antimony. Antimony is otherwise known as the all-seeing eye of Horus. This is the icon the Royal Society of Chemistry chose to use to represent this element, because when you go read about antimony, folks, they used to put antimony sulfide under their eyes as mascara. And of course, it darkened the eyes, and that's where this shape comes in, which of course, folks, this is tied to your brain. This is tied to your brain, folks. You cut your brain in half and you will find the all-seeing eye in there. Because again, the stranger Xenon, there's someone in my head, but it's not me. Yeah, that's because we're being used, folks. And that's the all-seeing eye inside of our brains, running the show. If it doesn't like what it sees, it will run the show. We may have some free will. I'm not completely closed off about that, folks. But we don't have as much, if at any at all, that people think. The illusion of having free will makes free will alive, but I don't think that we have much at all, if any at all. So, you know, what's fascinating, folks, about this dark side of Oz and being tied to antimony and the all-seeing eye and the yellow brick road and gold and everything I've been showing is it's also tied to the crucifixion. Because you see, here is the tie-in of both the Wizard of Oz and the dark side of the moon. You see, the Wizard of Oz came out on August 25th, 1939 on a Friday, and then Dark Side of the Moon came out on Thursday, March 1st, 1973. Look at the timestamp. It's a difference of 33 years in between the two. So, hey, you guys at Pink Floyd, you may not have consciously wrote this album in sync with Wizard of Oz, but you were being used to be in sync with the Wizard of Oz, which is why this has a ton of merit. Getting into the album itself, this is taken right off the website of Dark Side of the Moon. It says the light band emanating from the prism on the album cover has 6 colors, missing indigo. It skipped the color indigo compared to the traditional division of the spectrum: red, yellow, orange, green, blue, indigo, and violet. It skipped that indigo. Instead of using 7 colors, it just used 6. So I decoded that, and there you go. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. That's a total of 121, which yet again ties to the element antimony, otherwise known as the all-seeing eye. Which is, this is located on the back of the dollar bill, is it not? So folks, how do you wrap your mind around this? How do you wrap your mind around this, folks? Do you see what I'm showing you? There's no way man could be doing all this, folks. No possible way. There's too many moving parts. It's what's running the show behind the scenes that's not physical. So let's get into that triangular prism, because folks, this one is going to blow some doors off. It's going to pop some navels. It's going to put people on the floor when I get into this latter part of this presentation, folks. You see, the album's artwork right there. This is right off the Dark Side of the Moon, the whole description of it. It's in there. I pulled it from there. And it depicts the light refracting from this is what they use. They even put it in blue. A triangular prism. They highlighted it so you can go read about it. Triangular prism. Triangular. This is called a tetrahedron. A pyramid. In geometry, tetrahedron. I showed you in the beginning how Pink Floyd's tied to that. So triangular prism is the number 46. It's a 28 and 18. Triangular's 28. Prism's 18. That's a direct match of these two big names on the world stage. The two opposing forces that are tied to theology. Jesus and Lucifer. Jesus and Lucifer is also not just the 46, but they are the 18 and 28. 18 and 28. Lucifer's known as the light bringer. Folks, these two characters, these two ideas are tied directly together. Tied directly together. Now, I'm going to be getting into the triangular numbers, the trigonal, because, see, this is when you get into breaking down and decoding, this is how I feel the proper way to do things. Like, these can be the Chaldean and English and all the other and septenary. They can be used to decode our words. But when you start to get into geometry, you want to get into the shapes, the trigonal, or otherwise known as the triangular numbers. You want to get into the square numbers. You want to get into the prime numbers, because then they start to measure the shapes of our reality. And you'll notice that the letter G that sits right inside the square and compass, which equals 47, by the way, is the 28th triangular number. The G, 28, tied to Lucifer. So, folks, who do you think the Masons really pledged to when you look at these expressions here? I'm not saying it's completely true, but what do you see? The triangular tied to Lucifer. And again, Lucifer's got the bad rap, of course. from the story that's been passed on through mankind, which is all artificial. Because everything that comes from our minds, and well, I shouldn't say our minds, but what we create is artificial. So there it is. The G is the 28. And that gets into the eye of providence, folks. The all-seeing eye of providence. That's what it's known as. The all-seeing eye, it's the providence. And you'll notice that providence is a 46, matching that of the triangular prism and Jesus and Lucifer. How about that, folks? And it's on the album Dark Side of the Moon. So obviously you can see the 46 is a big freaking deal. Well, I wanted to measure it. So it's this element right there called Palladium. Palladium is tied to the god of wisdom. Go read about it. Palladium. It's the god of wisdom and knowledge. And then what the actual Freemasons go by, what they call God, that title, that word, they call it the great architect of the universe. Look at what its output is. 105. What is Palladium's weight? 105. 105, folks. And of course, the subtleties, 27 letters, 27 is tied to current and currency. The gold currency, folks. The gold currency. This is tied to the number 30. This is tied to the number 47. Directly, folks. And is tied to Palladium and providence and the all-seeing eye, which is tied to Dark Side of the Moon and the triangular prism. So now you know, folks, the cat's out of the bag, no more secrets. See how easy that was? You ain't got to go to a bunch of rituals. You ain't got to go to a bunch of meetings in a lodge. Now you know, folks. Cat's out of the bag. There are no more secrets during this age, folks. We're moving into the age of Aquarius if we haven't done so already. And there are no more secrets. You will know everything during this period. What about the album itself? So the Dark Side of the Moon had 2 release dates, one in the UK and then one in the United States. In the US, it came out first on March 1st, as I mentioned, and then the UK came out 15 days later. Of course, there's that 15, remember, the subtleties, Eye of Providence has 15 letters. Subtleties, but not to be left out. So it came out in the UK on March 16th, and here are the 2 cards that match the dates of when this album came out. In the US, it's the 9 spades. And in the day of March 16th, it's the 7 diamonds card. And it's linked to these 2 elements because when you put these 2 cards together, it's going to give you the number 97 and the number 79. And I'm going to leave it up to some of you decoders because, folks, if you add up those, you can find so many nuggets with these 2 elements, putting them together. But clearly, this is where I can see how a producer or somebody that has knowledge of the occult would actually come out and pick the dates of when to release these albums. The subtleties, again, if you put 1 and 16 together, you're going to get the golden ratio because the golden ratio is 1.61. And we're talking about gold. Excuse me. So you can see the moving parts, the cards. Do you realize it would take a lot to really a lot of thought would have to consciously go into doing all the things I'm showing you? I don't think it's possible. I think that it's absolutely impossible for man to be doing this. And notice, 33 is that card, which I'm going to be getting into, the 7 diamonds card. The 7 diamonds card. So, this is the timeline from pinkfloyd.com, and I wanted to point out on the 20th of January is when they actually debuted the live presentation of the Dark Side of the Moon at the Dome in Brighton, London, but it was cut short. They had technical issues, but nonetheless, this was the first day that they actually played it live, was January 20th, also known as 120, which is tied to, once again, the element antimony, the all-seeing eye. 120, 120, 121, 122. Antimony covers all those weights, folks. It's the all-seeing eye. So they premiered this Dark Side of the Moon. It was called Dark Side of the Moon, a piece for assorted lunatics at this Brighton Dome on January 20th, 1972. Here's the date of January 20th. Let me just show you really quickly here. Here's January. This is the boilerplate chart for the cards. I've been showing this. January, and here's the 20th. It's the 7 Diamonds card, folks. And this is when they debuted the Dark Side of the Moon for the first time, January 20th, which is tied to Antimony and the all-seeing eye. It's tied to the Christ because it's card 33, folks. What's 33? Tied to the Crucifixion, tied to the 33 vertebrae in your back, leading to ascension, tied to the 33 steps in Freemasonry. And the counterpart to this card right here, because these cards always have a counterpart to them, or a cousin card, or a brother or sister card. I'm going to show you that in a second. It's this card right there, the 9 hearts. What's 79? What would be 79 when you bring it together? That would be the element gold. Just like these 2 dates right there, folks. Coming out on March 1st and March 16th. It's gold, folks. It's gold. And this is when they first released and premiered their album, Dark Side of the Moon. So 7 of Diamonds also has the 9 of Hearts. Let me show you that. This is the boilerplate chart for the cards. And you'll notice here's the 7 of Diamonds right here. This is called your master life configuration. This is your ego. This is your birth card is going to be in here. And then your master spirit is going to be your other birth card right here. And these 2 things are batteries. And you'll notice the 7 Diamonds card sits right here. And when you come over to this side right here and you locate the same card in the same space, look at what card it is. It's the 9 of Hearts. And of course, you know, again, what's 7 and 9? That is gold, folks. It's gold. But they utilize this card right here, which is card 33, which is why I have a picture of the cross there, the crucifixion, tied to Jesus and Lucifer, because they both share that name in the English ordinal numerology cipher. Arsenic, poisonous. 33 steps, 33 vertebrae, crucifixion, age 33. This is when they released this album for the first time on stage. So then they performed it in the presence of the press on 17th of February, 1972. Of course, they did it. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to digress and show you that because they did that at this place right here. It's obviously very fitting, but it's right here, folks. It was debuted at the Rainbow Theater. The what kind of theater? The Rainbow. What's on their album cover, folks? A rainbow. Now, I can see you could construct and plan this because, it's got a rainbow. Let's have it at the Rainbow Theater. Yes, I could see how man could consciously do that, folks. But you can see how beautifully orchestrated this entire synchronistic presentation is and how there's no way man could be doing much of anything. I mean, this, yes, I could see. But that would be as far as I would go, folks. Let's keep going. So 17 February, we're going to get into that. 17's fish. 17 is tied to gold because the word gold equals 17. So you see how many moving parts, and it would just be totally insane and irresponsible of me to say, yeah, man's doing everything. We're in control of it all. It would be very irresponsible and also disrespectful to whatever created this matrix reality. Whether you like it or not, whether you like what created this reality or not is irrelevant. Point is something has an origin to it and it deserves some kind of respect because the way this thing's set up and the numerical sequences and patterns I'm seeing in the coding is absolutely mind-blowing and it's beautiful if you like numbers like I do. So here it is. This is what the actual album was called, or at least the presentation delivered on stage on 17th of February in the Rainbow Theater in England. It was called Dark Side of the Moon, a piece for assorted lunatics. The total output in numerology is 169, and the 1009 is the 169th prime number. What is 109 or 1009? What's the 19? It's tied to the word battery. Battery. I know some of you say, well, you got the zeros in there. Folks, you got to understand how numbers work. It's still in there. The two zeros represent infinite potential. It's just a higher form of the word battery. It's all it means. And then you got the yin yang in there. Even though it's 169, you got the 69 in there. It's a higher form of the 69. It's now on the 100 level. Instead of just 69, it's now 169. That's how these numbers work and express themselves. So folks, I mean, it was delivered on the 17th. 17 is tied to the word gold. And I've been showing that over and over. Showing that over and over. So what element is that tied to, that 169? Tied to that name of this performance. It's tied to the 69th element called thulium. I got that spelled wrong. I got to change it. Thulium, the element 69. That's why I have the yin yang here, folks. It's the duality, folks. It's talking about our duality in time. That's why they had the song Time on that album, because we are living in time. We move through time. And eventually our time runs out. But we live in time, and time is duality, folks. And you're not going to escape that until you leave this place. And then it goes into an opinion of what happens after that. Because no one's been able to leave and come back and prove exactly what happens on the other side. Not possible. So the actual tour, Dark Side of the Moon, they originally called it Eclipse. And then some other bands came out with the album called Eclipse, so they decided to scratch that. But look at what it comes out to in numerology. It's yet again the 69. See, they were in tune with the numbers. It was inevitable it was going to be that anyway. But of course, there's that yin yang, folks. This album is all about time and duality and what's creating that. So now we get into the last topic, folks. This one's going to frickin' blow your mind. This one is going to blow your mind. So we have this song called, this is probably my favorite one off the album too, The Great Gig in the Sky. So it's all about the gig. That's the standout for this song, is the gig that's in the sky. And the adjective describing it is great. Great gig in the sky. And you know, that is right here. I mean, you can go read about that. And the decodes on this song alone completely blew me away. Completely blew me away. And you should read about this kind of stuff. It was just amazing of what it is all about, and you know what it was really supposed to be about. And I mean, on the old tracks of when they were singing it, they had vocals by Claire Torrey, of course, the female that was singing this. But this song was originally titled The Mortality Sequence. And we're going to get into that, folks. And why am I using the trigonal cipher? This is the first time I've ever brought this into my decodes. So it's new, and there's a very specific reason why I brought this in here, and I feel that this is the proper time to do so. So again, it's a matter of when you get into advanced decoding methods, folks, you can really start to see what ciphers fit with what narratives in the matrix reality. Because it will tell the story. And I mean, I could do gig. Gig is, the interesting part is gig through the Chaldean is 313, which is tied to the 133, and so, I mean, you know, you could do it that way, which is tied to the number 7, which means the colors in the rainbow, tied to this whole album. But the trigonal is because of the triangle or the tetrahedron that's on this album, which I created an octahedron because I feel like this is the way. And I got this coming out in my Prison Planet Decode, folks. A lot of people are waiting on this one, folks. It's going to be worth your wait. I mean, I got a lot of information coming out with that called Prison Planet. But anyway, notice that gig is a 101, and we're measuring the trigonal because that's what they're talking about. The album cover is the gig in the sky, the pyramid, the octahedron, and the tetrahedron. That's what's on the album cover. It's the gig. And here it is, folks. This was what I found, and it completely blew me away. Now, I'm going to admit to all of you, I haven't been looking and decoding from these trigonal or triangular numbers. Not very much, a little bit, but not what I found over the past couple days. And I found this last night, and it completely blew my doors off. And it just connected so many things, and there was the synchronicity for me, and now I know why, or partly why I was decoding this album, Dark Side of the Moon. Because see, folks, the triangle can now be measured using the triangular and the trigonal, and what I want you to realize is that, you see, the 101st triangular number in mathematics is the number 5151. Now, I was using this website right here called coolconversion.com. And I'll leave these links in the descriptions of the video so you can just click on them if you want to use them. And it's kind of funky because this is a little bit hard to navigate. Sometimes you'll type the numbers in, they'll come out backwards, so just beware. But I decided to type that 101 in there, and there it is. It's the number 5151. Now you're like, okay, well, what does that got to do with this? Well, folks, you see, when you go into, well, actually, let me describe what a triangular number is before I get into the meaning of that 101 and the 5151. So what is a triangular number? It's the number of circles. This is a great description of it. It's a number of circles in a triangle that are evenly filled with circles. So these are pies. Pie. Circles that fit inside this triangle. This triangle. And that'll fit inside the square. So geometry is completely embedded into this, folks. So again, what is up with that 5151? The great gig in the sky is 101. The 5151 is the 101st triangular number. So you come down to this right here, folks, and there it was. And it's always been there. I just didn't see it because I didn't have the keys. But you'll see that the slope of the Great Pyramid of Giza is 51 degrees. 51 degrees. And there it is, folks. The great gig in the sky. Because clearly this is on the album. This is the highlight of the album besides the rainbow prism. The rainbow coming out. The triangular prism. The eye of providence. It's tied to the Great Pyramid of Giza and the measurements of that using real math, folks. Using real math. Completely blew me away. This is why I love math and I love decoding, because it gives us the truth instead of just some fancy opinion someone comes out with. Opinions are easy to state, but to back them up, that's a completely different story. So I started to look at it and I started to have fun. And folks, you should you should add this into your decodes, folks. I'm going to start going a little bit far. And I hope some of you find some great decodes. I know some of you will because you have some great decoders out there. But here it is, some big ones in our matrix reality, folks. What is the 26th triangular number? Why did I look at the 26th? Because, folks, it's tied to the ancient Israelite God of the Taurian Bible. Why I say Taurian? Because it's tied to Taurus. Taurus is 2. Bible has 2 books, 2 testaments, Old and New. That's the Taurus. Taurus fields, you get into Santos Bonacci's work, the Taurus fields, making up the bull. The Bible says has everything to do with the Great Pyramid of Giza and the element iron. This is when the Yod-Heh, this is the Yod-Heh Vah-Heh, folks, in the original Hebrew spelling. The original numerology cipher here, 26. It's tied to the element iron. It's tied to aluminum in the 13, which is tied to gold. Tied to the 55 secret destroyer. Tied to the 10th Fibonacci number. But the 26 triangular number is the number 365. 351. And what's 351 otherwise known as? 153. Because you see, folks, the 17th triangular number is 153. Which is tied to the 64th element, the GD element, because how many fish did the Christ and Peter catch when they threw the nets overboard in that story? 153. And since it's the 17th triangular number tied to this 153, it's tied to these big-time nouns in our English vocabulary. Gold and fish. Because see, folks, we're all fish. And Pink Floyd sang about it off their album Wish You Were Here. We're all two lost souls, our DNA, two of them, swimming in a fish bowl. We're in a bowl, folks. And we've lost our way. We've got amnesia. But we're being mined for our gold, which is probably why we have amnesia. Goldfish, tied to the 17th triangular number, tied to the 153, tied to our DNA, 64 possible codons in our DNA, tied to the chessboard, 64 squares, tied to the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. See that 351 being the 26th triangular and that 153 being the 17th? Folks, if you didn't know that the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh through the Chaldean, guess what number it is? It's the number 17, folks. The number 17. That's why we're being used for our energetic gold. We're goldfish. And this pyramid shape the Great Pyramid of Giza, folks, it's a powerhouse. What it does on the world stage as a physical expression. So then we get into the 44th triangular number. Why the 44? I'll be getting into that in a minute. But the 44th triangular number is the number 990. 44. It's tied to the word gold currency or gold current. They come out to the same thing. We're being mined for our currency, our energy. 44. 44 is tied to the heart chakra. The fourth chakra in the Vedic system is the fourth one. That's the color green. And we're being mined for our energetic gold. And of course, folks, showed this in the very beginning slide of breaking down Pink Floyd. And the number 39 is tied right to this number 44. The tetrahedron. What is the shape of a tetrahedron? It's right there, folks. That is a tetrahedron. Is the pyramid. And it's the 44th triangular number, which is tied to gold currency. And it's tied to this element right there. The number 44 has an atomic weight of 101. And what is the 101? It's the great gig in the sky, folks. It's the great gig in the sky. It's the portal. Nathalia, the great decoder, my friend. Nathalia should be doing cartwheels in her living room right now because she's got a lot of great decodes. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Is it Nathalie or Nathalia? But the great decoder. She's got some great stuff coming out. She's been coming out with some great stuff. She came out with the portal. I've been working on this for a while. I couldn't find the connections, and I found it doing this decode, and I hope this helps you with your decodes, folks. That 101. Notice, what is the 101? You see that 0 in the middle of the 1 and 1? That's the portal, folks. And that right there is tied to the number 853. And you can go look at that yourself, but that's a huge clue in the world of decoding, that 853 in the string of pi with that 101, folks. But that's the pi, folks, tied to the great gig in the sky. Tied to the 51 degrees in the Great Pyramid of Giza. tied to the 26 triangular number and the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh and the element iron, and tied to our gold currency and us being the fish, being mined for our gold, and of course, the gold currency tied to that number 99 or 990. Now, where does that 990 come into play, folks? It comes into play right here. You see, because this is pure physics. And I'm going to be coming out. My prison planet will have this, folks. This is real physics. Not only am I showing sacred geometry tied to numerology and the science and the elements of the periodic table and pi and the cards of illumination, but you're seeing real, this is physics. And this is your Trinity right here. If you fancy theology in the Trinity, there it is, folks. That's the Trinity. That's your Trinity right there. In physics, there are three things that make up our matrix reality: dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity. Thank you, Ken Wheeler. Thank you, Santo Spinacci. Notice it's 33 letters. These three that form the Trinity, that make up the torus fields, that make up our world as a whole, that make up all the numbers, they equal the number 99. Now, I know there's no zero there, but folks, use your common sense. This is the Trinity in physics, and that's 99. It's right there, folks. 44th triangular number, 990. And what's dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity? It's gold current. And we're part of that, folks. We're part of that through this portal called the Great Gig in the sky. And so this is what I believe to be what's really going on in our world, folks. We are, if you haven't seen my Rat in a Cage, it was a 3-minute and 7-second video highlighting the great song by Smashing Pumpkins. But I believe that we are nothing other than an experiment. Now, I know that may sound a little shocking, and many of you will probably deny that. No, folks, we're an experiment. That's why this world's cyclical. I think the Vedics have the most accurate knowledge. We start off in a golden age and we end in the dark age, which is what we're in right now, the Kali Yuga stage. And then when this age ends, it goes back to the golden age. And then it decreases and goes back down to the dark age. And it's just repeats. And we're in this loop, folks. And there's no guarantee you're going to get out of this loop. Some of you are like, I hear so many people, oh, this is my last life. I'm never coming back. How do you even know you have a choice? Now, that's not to piss anybody off, or that's not to bum you out. Or, folks, your life is coded. You should know what your code is so you can live out your best experience. Some of you are not because you don't know your code. Everything is code. Everything. So experiment's 44, gold current is 44. If you don't like the word current, we'll put currency in there. It's the same outcome. And you'll notice that 44, when you say 44, is 46. And what did we show? 46 is providence, the eye of providence. Which is what I've been showing. It's the triangular prism, folks. That was the reason for the album cover, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. It was based off a triangular prism. Light going in and coming out with the colors of the rainbow. And 46, not only is it tied to the word providence, the eye of providence, and Jesus and Lucifer, but in the original Hebrew spelling of the tree of life, that story from the Old Testament, through the original spelling of it, it equals the number 46. It equals the number 46, folks. And I'm almost done with this presentation. I have a few more slides left and then I'm done. I told you this would be the best part of the decode, and I hope you agree. So getting back into that gig, folks, let's break it down using alchemy, shall we? So gig is a 28, 45, 28. It's 2 nickels and a rhodium. When we add those up and do the alchemy of those elements, adding up in the trusty calculator, you're going to get the number 220.772. And then we go into the string of pi and look at where the number 22 appears at the 1910th decimal digit of pi, which once again is the Wizard of Oz element. It's osmium, which I showed that in the earlier slide of this presentation, being tied to the Wizard of Oz and the dark side of the rainbow. And it's about the pyramid, folks. And this is it. That's the octahedron right there, folks. It's the tetrahedron and the octahedron. And here it is inside the cube, which is what we're stuck in. We're in the cube. Go look at your dial pad on your phone or your calculator, which is right here, folks. Look it to your right there. That's the magic square of Saturn. What is Saturn? It's Father Time. We are stuck in the cube of time. We're stuck in pi. The circle goes in here as well. And it's encased in these two right there, which this is all linked to torus fields. I'm going to be getting it. Rodin's circle, all the numbers, Tesla's 369, the keys to the universe. It's all going to be coming out in my prison planet decode, folks. And it's going to totally blow you away. Because it will show you how our reality works. And it just may be a simulation. Triangular prism, stuck in that prism. The Wizard of Oz runs it, which is the great gig in the sky, which is geometry, folks, and numbers, and pi. So this song, The Great Gig in the Sky, again, it was also known as the mortality sequence. This is what they called it. Besides the Great Gig, it was called the mortality sequence. And look at what number it is, folks. 74. 74. I mean, just look at the name, the mortality sequence. Break those words down. Mortality. That's dying. That's 27. Guess what's 27? Currency. Current. Mortality. And then the sequence of that. 33. 33, folks. And here it was for me. This is my last slide. I saved the best one for last, folks. And maybe you're already completely floored, but folks, this one completely knocked the cover off the ball for me, folks. This, again, we're talking about the number 74, which I showed how there's so many tie-ins to this album already. But then you go to this right here, folks, and I decided to look up the 7 and 4 in the triangular number sequence. Here are the first 7, including the 0, numbers in the triangular sequence. The first one is 1, second one is 3, third one is 6, the fourth one is 10, the fifth one is 15, the sixth one is 21, and the seventh triangular number is 28. So what's 74 or 47? It's the number 10 and the number 28. So naturally, I'm going to bring the elements of the periodic table into this. It's neon and nickel. And then we go over to the trusty calculator. We do the alchemy of those. And look at the freaking number that I got, or we got. 77. 77, folks. And what element is the 77th element? It's iridium. Iridium is also tied to the Greek goddess of the what? The rainbow. Folks, what's on the album cover of Dark Side of the Moon? Coming out of that triangular prism? The rainbow, folks. The rainbow. And to just seal this presentation up and to really rock you, folks, Look at what the 77th triangular number is, folks. It's the 3003rd triangular number, otherwise known as the 33. And when you look at the element on the periodic table that has the 33, it's arsenic. And what's the number inside of that box that it's most abundant? Atomic mass? 74. 74, folks. And that's the 74. Fourth triangular, seventh triangular. Neon nickel. 77, iridium. The colors of the rainbow, folks. 33. And how many sides does the pyramid have? Or how many points? 3. 33, folks. The great gig in the sky. Pink Floyd sang the song, Welcome to the Machine. Guess what the machine is? This is part of it. This is absolutely part of it. And this was monumental for me personally. I don't know about you, but this was absolutely monumental for me and the way I've been doing all my research. So folks, that was a long one, almost an hour and a half long. What did you see during this presentation? I'd love to hear your comments. I know I missed a lot of things, and I'm probably going to come out with part 2 because this deserves a part 2. And you can clearly see how Pink Floyd was being used to express the way I feel this matrix works and our world works in the game of life. And why all these shapes and sacred geometry and these numbers and patterns and triangular numbers and they all fit, folks. There are no accidents. Everything is scripted down to the exact science and the numbers. They're perfectly scripted because this world is perfectly scripted through the elements of numbers. So that's all I got for today, folks. My name is Logan. This is Decode Your Reality, and I thank you so very much for watching.